KSFO.
By now, all of you know that I believe the crash of the Chinook helicopter in Afghanistan that claimed the lives of 30 people, including 25 Special Forces members, mainly our Navy SEALs. I know it's not been properly investigated, and I wrote a novel about it called A Time for War. And those who are responsible for putting all of these SEALs on this helicopter have not been brought to justice. I felt so strongly about this tragedy. That is how I opened my novel A Time for War, as I said. But there's plenty of unanswered questions. Not just about this crash, which looks like an assassination, but also about our so-called rules of engagement and how we're going about fighting the so-called war on terror by Obama. Coming back to the Savage Nation is the father of one of those fallen American heroes, Billy Vaughn, who has not stopped looking for these answers, and whose new book, Betrayed, Exposing the High Cost of the War on Terror, gives us some details on what happened that night and shines a little light on how our troops are being compromised by the very people who should be protecting them the most. Billy Vaughn, welcome back to the Savage Nation.
Thank you very much, sir, and it's certainly a pleasure and an honor to be with you tonight.
Mr. Vaughn, what have we learned about this, well, some call it tragic incident, I call it this assassination of our SEALs?
Well, since I was with you, since Karen and I were with you the last time, we've learned quite a few things. Actually, we know that night, obviously, you already knew they were flying in a National Guard helicopter, but as they went into an HLZ, hot landing zone, there was no pre-assault fire. After the chopper was shot down, they didn't take out the guys who fired the RPGs because of the rules of engagement. We also know that there were 7 Afghan commandos on the chopper who were not the same men as the names listed on the manifest. And we've also learned that most of, if not all of our high-level military are quite comfortable with the rules of engagement in the way that our special operators are fighting this war in Afghanistan, and all of that is very troubling and disturbing.
Why was there no support for the men on this helicopter?
We don't know. We do know that there were no escorts out, and that out in front of the chopper, and that is standard operating procedure. I don't know if there were not. We've not gotten an answer on that. I don't know if there were not choppers available at the forward operating base. There had been 2 escorts go out on the first part of the mission with the Rangers, but those 2 escorts had stayed in the battle space there and were overhead. And they sent the SEALs out without any escort at all. And what was supposed to happen is the ones who were already there were supposed to go over and pick them up. But that didn't. Obviously, they didn't get the landing zone cleared properly before the chopper came in to land, and it was a very, very expensive, very tragic loss there because it wasn't done properly.
You say part of the problem is the shift from trying to win the war to trying to winning their hearts and minds. Sounds like Vietnam all over again. You cannot win the hearts and minds of throwbacks. They have no hearts and they have no minds. All they have is hate.
Yeah, and truthfully, I don't know how long ago that started, but Karen and I were in Virginia Beach in October of 2011 for a debriefing held for the parents and the spouses of all the men who were killed on Extortion 17 from the Army, from the Air Force, and from the Navy. And one of the fathers asked, why didn't we use a drone strike that night? And I'm not saying at all whether we should have or shouldn't, but the answer that he was given by 3-star Admiral Robert Harward, that Admiral Harward gave to all the families there as he turned and said, because we want to win their hearts and minds. And, that day we were still, a lot of us still in shock. We were raw. Nobody responded. But that has haunted me ever since because it makes it sound like to the families and to our warriors that it's more, we are willing to sacrifice our warriors' lives as long as we are able to gain the favor of the Afghans. And, that's just not acceptable.
You've been asked to remain silent on what you found out in this book. By who?
We have had a little bit of pressure on us about speaking out, and asked, that's correct, and asked not to speak out and not to speak about these things. And they've actually used it to me under the ridiculous heading or